My next speaker is the lady who's made it possible for us to be here today. She's a lecturer here in Institute of Education, Dr. Victoria Showunmi. Okay, hi everybody. Kind of mirror what Rosalie said earlier actually. I've kind of planned to do a talk, but I haven't really kind of put it together. I've been running around with what's actually going on. I wanted to just start with something small about where I started from, and then I want to move on to tell you a little bit about the research which I'm doing with black girls, and also then moving on to the association which I'm working with as well. Yes, I'm an academic here. What I want to say is I was actually, as a child, given away as a child to white parents. And I say that as a starter because, yes, they were white and they were very middle class parents. So I had the class aspect and I was able to navigate what I wanted to do. I wasn't in London, I grew up in Somerset. However, I've always been interested in what's actually going on with education for our community and what's actually happening. And so the particular piece of research which I'm interested in talking to you about at the moment is about black girls. And the reason why I'm putting black girls on the map is because there's not much going on with our voices of black girls at the moment. And I say black girls and well-being, because what's actually happening is, and I've gone into quite a few schools at the present moment looking at the experience of black girls and what that means, is that many black girls are achieving, which is really positive. But the question you ask is they're achieving by what cost? And that's the question, and that's what I'm working with. So, for example, the girls which I'm working with at the moment are between the ages of 14 and 15. And I've asked them a particular question, two specific questions. One of the questions is, what's it like to be a black girl in society? That's the first question. And the second question, what's it like to be a black girl in school? Now that's in the midst of other questions I'm asking them. When you actually ask and sit down in focus groups as I was with these girls, you can be quite emotional because there's two types of girls which are talking about their experiences in school. And they're talking about either they're a popular girl. Now I thought being a popular girl was being a popular girl meaning that you're doing well or you've got lots of friends or things like this. I was re-educated. Being a popular girl means the type of girl which perhaps is getting into trouble and maybe more experienced with the issues which they shouldn't be experienced at the age of 14. So that's the popular girls. Then you've got the girls which are seen as moving up the school. And those particular girls, what I felt quite emotional about is that they talk about leaving themselves behind. And what they mean by that is, it's better to have relationships, i.e. friendship relationships, with white girls than it is to have relationships with their own girls. So they talk about their experiences of identity and what that means. And that in itself is actually quite harrowing because you're thinking that these are 14 and 15-year-olds who are, majority of them are born here. And they are talking about the experience of being, that you need to leave who they are at home to be able to navigate within the system of what's going on in school. If I take a particular quote from one of the girls, they're saying that they talked about the fact that their identity and their impact, and they were saying that the women, that the teachers talk about white girls, other ethnic minority girls, but they don't hear our voices. They hear our voices only to describe us as loud girls. And loud girls meaning in a negative response. And they're trying to change our personality of being loud and what that means in relation to how we express ourselves. I just read a couple of points. I want to just read a couple of points here, which is kind of the summary of some of the work which I'm doing. And it says, when asked about being black in school, most of the girls, both high and low attainers, felt that black girls were viewed more negatively at school than their white peers, and that white girls were given more positive attention. The low attainers also felt that girls were signalled out at school and blamed for behaviour that white girls got away with. Several of the high attaining girls felt that many teachers held stereotypical negative views of the black girls at school. For example, presumably they were not listening if they said they could not understand something. In general, the girls felt that black girls were seen as loud and aggressive, and several high attainers expressed the desire to distance themselves from the louder girls. They talked of the need to become the right sort of black girl, and that was quite painful, the right sort of black girl. What are we talking about when we're talking about the right sort of black girl? And at the same time, the black girls also expressed their pride in their loud and proud assertiveness. Many of the low attainers also expressed criticism of the behaviour of their white classmates, for example, criticising them for trying to act black. These popular girls, which I thought were actually quite savvy in many ways, they talked about that, they talked about this notion of trying to act black, and they were okay with trying to act black because they're white, and they couldn't understand why do they want to try and act black when we're experiencing so much pain in school, but they want to be like us. The black girls also found it hard to talk about being a black girl in society. Their comments suggested that they were likely to clash with society, and they talked about getting into fights and being put into youth offending teams. They also mentioned feeling uncomfortable, signalled out, and misunderstood in society. What I didn't say is that there was particular schools I worked with. One of them was in one of the areas where the rioting actually started. And so talking about what it was like to be a black girl in their society they're walking around in, they really felt embarrassed in many ways. They didn't want to feel, they felt that people were looking at them, old white ladies would cross over the road and blame them for the issues which had taken place in the bigger side in relation to some of the rioting which took place in their particular area. Concerning friendships, most of the low attainers had predominantly black friends, which I thought was interesting, while the high attainers were more likely to be without close friends or try to make white friends to deflect negative attention from themselves and help them succeed in life. So it's going through the system. Their discussion of the merits of blackness and whiteness must be causing identity conflict in their achieving for the girls. What was interesting about this discussion, it was very similar debate and discussion that black women leaders are having in another piece of research. So I was also in parallel, just slightly, was doing some work with, I was asking leaders what it was like, whether your identity had an impact on your leadership style. So at the same time I was working with the girls and having focus groups with them, I was also having focus groups with black leaders. And what was interesting about the correlation coming through from that is the girls were talking about leaving their identity at home. And here I was talking to leaders and asked them about their identity and whether it had an impact on the leadership style. Those leaders, and their high-profile leaders, were saying the same thing. And the comments they were saying was that they felt that they needed to bleach their identity to go up in the organisation. So you've got the leaders, which are 30, 40, 50 plus, talking about bleaching their identity. And then you've got the girls, which are 14 and 15, saying similar. That was a concern. What's also a concern is that, so I'm continuing to do this work, is that I've got 3 girls. And I've got one which I was going to bring with me, but she was still asleep. She's an 8-year-old. Most people see her, Charlotte. And I've got 2 other girls which have graduated, and they did go to private school. But what's interesting, and this is why I'm so fascinated about doing this work about black girls and well-being, is that emotionally, my 2 older girls, yes, they graduated from Russell Group. However, the emotional drain for them to get into what they want to do is horrendous. For me as a mother, looking at them and working with them and keeping them on track, because there's no mentoring for black girls, there's no support for black girls, it's all about you're strong, you're resilient, and you can keep going. But actually, and it is quite emotional, I feel that our black girls are actually starting to crumble. And there's no support mechanism for them. And so that's why I'm interested about black girls and their well-being. Because yes, they can get the firsts. Yes, they can get the 2-1s. Yes, they can get the A stars and the A levels. But at the end of it, what's the cost? What's the cost? And I had a teacher here at another discussion I had a couple of months ago. And she spoke up emotional. She was teaching, and she said that she's got these high-profile girls in her class all doing different work. And one black girl spoke about, because it was in international, it was in the Black History Month, and she spoke about, she wanted to talk about racism because that was part of their project. And part of that project was talking about their experiences. And she was with the A-level group with the majority of white girls. This girl spoke up about her experiences, and all her white colleagues didn't know what to say. They thought that, you don't experience racism. And she crumbled. That girl was the first time she'd spoken about her experience. She was 17 years of age. And she was emotional. And the teacher, the black teacher, had to support her. And she'd never spoken about her experiences because people presumed because she was doing well and she was up there that she was okay. A white colleague, her students, had never ever known that this girl was experiencing racism. So that's where I'm at with the particular work I'm doing. So that's the kind of work I'm doing around research, and yes, I do work here. And even working in an establishment like this, and to bring us here, to me, is, I wanted to do this because it speaks, this is our place as well. The Institute of Education, yes, it is a very elite establishment, it's our place as well. And to bring it here is really fundamental, because we do work in education, whether it's to do with training the teachers or whether it's to do with researching. We also have a voice of doing work around what's going on with our children in education. And one of my colleagues here, Christine Callender, is an educator in relation to teacher training, and very well known for her work in teacher education. The last thing I want to say, and I will move off, is we've also got an association which we put together. We put this together with some colleagues across England, including Cecile Wright, Professor Cecile Wright. Also, we've got Clive Fraser and some other colleagues. And it's an association for black academics, because we really feel this is a time for us to move and collectively work together to support what's actually going on with black education at the present moment.